Welcome to Politics Unusual. I'm Morgan McKay. In just about a month and a half, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani will be sworn in as New York City's next mayor. So first up today, we have the mayor-elect himself joining us to discuss his transition into office. Then we're speaking with an advocate about a bill waiting for Governor Hochul's signature. And then we're hearing from Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill about her plan for the next few months. But there's so much to get to, so we're just going to jump right in. Joining us now is Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can only imagine what a whirlwind the past week and a half has been. How are you adjusting? What's it been like?
You know, it has been lovely. It's now been a little more than a week, and it's been a moment to also take in the work that we've been a part of over more than a year in sharing a vision for the city where New Yorkers could do more than just struggle. And to hear the excitement from New Yorkers about a politics that means more than what we've seen, it has meant the world. And we've tried to take the same approach in these last, week and a half. Hit the ground running, start to announce our transition team. The day after, we said, these are the 4 incredible co-chairs we have. This is our executive director. And then this week, we announced our first deputy mayor and chief of staff. And we did so about a month earlier than typical administrations because we want this time to be a time where we're preparing. So January 1st is a time that we're actually delivering.
But what's your conversations like with family, friends? Are you making them all call you mayor-elect already? How's that going?
There's some family members who I don't think are ever going to call me anything else. But I think it is a transition, with many in my life. But it's been so exciting because it's also a moment where the things that we've been talking about are now things that we can actually start to work on. And even just the conversations I've been having with our first deputy mayor, Dean Fullahan, El Bisgard Church, my chief of staff, these are the conversations around childcare, around affordability, whether we're talking about public transit or we're talking about groceries. It comes back to what we're hearing from New Yorkers. And now we can do more than just talk about it. We can actually be about it.
Now, you met with Governor Kathy Hochul for about an hour and a half. And in the meeting, from the readout that I got, you guys discussed how you're going to tackle any attacks from President Donald Trump. What was the conversation like? What did you guys discuss specifically when it comes to protecting the state against potential funding cuts, maybe the president sending the National Guard troops here to the city? What was the conversation like?
One of the first things I shared with the governor in an incredibly productive meeting that we had was that on Veterans Day, I had gone to Volunteers of America. I had gone to meet with veterans. And when we sat there, one veteran pulled me aside and told me of how the governor's decision to fully fund SNAP was one that meant that there was now food in his fridge. And he said, I know we're not supposed to talk politics, but I didn't have anything in there because of this shutdown and because of the choice to remove SNAP benefits during that shutdown. And this meant the world to me. And I shared that with her. And I did so because it shows that when we take care of New Yorkers, it's not because we're looking to think about luxuries or things that they would like. We're talking about basic needs, for New Yorkers who are facing a hunger that we often haven't seen in this city before. And that's how we spoke about the affordability agenda. These are needs for New Yorkers, but also with Donald Trump and the presidency, as well as the administration in Washington, the need to protect people of this city from that administration when it's looking to punish and prosecute those same people. And that will look like partnership in terms of being in alignment when it comes to looking to protect New Yorkers on a day-to-day basis, looking to address their fears that so many have in even leaving their homes, and also looking to protect the New Yorkers with the least from the man with the most power from these funding cuts, because we have seen already the devastating impact they can have, and we need to ensure that we are fighting back against them while putting forward an affirmative vision.
Now, you've also been reaching out to governors in other states like California Governor Gavin Newsom, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, to get advice about President Donald Trump and how to deal with him. What have those conversations been like? What have they told you?
I've appreciated those conversations as well as with Governor Westmore, as well as with mayors from across the country, because what we have the benefit of is learning from the examples we've seen elsewhere. And the threat to deploy the National Guard, it's not unique to New York. We've already seen it in other states. And in California, when the National Guard was deployed, the governor, the attorney general, and the mayor of LA came together to create a unified front and filed a lawsuit where a federal judge found in their favor that the deployment was illegal. And similarly, what New Yorkers will come to expect from myself, from Governor Hochul, from Attorney General Tish James, is a unified front. Because too often in politics, if the president is making a determination, it's seen as if it's him versus one other politician, or me, perhaps, as an example. It's really against the entirety of a city. And that means you have to showcase the city's leadership beyond just one position in how you fight back. That's what we're going to do.
You also said you plan to call President Donald Trump before you take office. Have you spoken with his team at all? Do they know that you're going to be calling?
I haven't spoken with his team as yet, but that is a call that I intend to make, and it's one that I intend to make because, as I've said over the campaign, I'm looking to represent all 8.5 million people who call this city home. And the presidency has an incredible impact on the people of this city. And if the president is looking to have a conversation about working together to benefit those New Yorkers, be it by lowering the cost of living or delivering cheaper groceries like he ran on, that's a conversation I'm willing to have. What I will also be willing to do time and time again is stand up for New Yorkers when the president comes after them. Because for too long, we haven't seen that kind of willingness from our own city hall. That's what we'll be delivering.
Now, also in your conversation with Hochul, you guys were discussing your childcare plan, your free childcare plan, and it seems like you guys were discussing something to be rolled out in fiscal year 2027. Why 2027?
So the governor has said that 2026 is the year of childcare. And we are currently in fiscal year 2026. We're going into fiscal year 2027. And we want to continue to deliver on the agenda that we ran on. And I'm excited when we're speaking with the governor because there's a recognition from both of us on the need for universal childcare and the fact that the absence of it is costing New Yorkers $22,500 a year on average. There are some New Yorkers paying more than that. And just yesterday, I was speaking with childcare providers, and they were telling me how difficult the city has often made it for them to just do their jobs and how that's pushing those same New Yorkers out of the city. I mean, if you look at the population of the city, 14% of New Yorkers are families with young children. But if you look at the population of those leaving New York City, 30% of them are families with young children, which shows that we are driving these families out of the city, and we need to start to make this the most affordable place to raise your kids.
Your plan to pay for the universal child care would be to tax millionaires and corporations, but Governor Hochul has said that she doesn't want to do that in an election year next year. So what are you guys discussing in terms of where this revenue is going to come from? You
know, I've said time and again that I think these are the two most straightforward ways to raise this revenue. One would increase personal income taxes by 2% on the top 1%. New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, like you said. The other would be to raise the top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. And this together would raise $9 billion. Internal government reforms would raise an extra $1 billion. This would pay for the economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city for exactly the things that we were just talking about. I've also said that if there are additional or alternate revenue sources that would pay for the same things, we would embrace them by all means, because the most important thing is funding these things. And I think with the governor, there's a clear alignment of the importance of delivering on universal childcare and on an affordability agenda. And now the work begins, even before we've been sworn in, on lining out when, how, but we always know it's for who, which is New Yorkers.
So you guys still trying to figure out exactly where that revenue is coming from. I felt like Hochul was sort of telling you, you know, while she agrees with some of your priorities, also at the same time, the state could be dealing with some federal funding cuts. But at the same time, it seemed also like a warning, saying, don't attack me right now. I'm in an election year. Let's work together, sort of behind the scenes at least. Don't blast me publicly. Did you kind of get that feeling from her in that meeting?
I would say that the feeling I've gotten from the governor in that meeting and in the meetings that we've had is one of actual partnership. And I wish it wasn't so remarkable to say, but sadly, in the history of New York City politics between mayors and governors, that partnership is not always present. And what I've come to appreciate is that it's sincere, it's committed, and so much of what we are talking about and have been talking about in our mayoral campaign has also been that which the governor has been speaking about in her position. It's affordability, it's safety, it's making this a livable place. And I really do see the possibility for us to both defend New Yorkers from a federal administration that has been looking to go after them time and time again, and start to deliver for those same New Yorkers from an affordability crisis that in some instances predates the presidential administration. Too often it's too easy to say that everything wrong is from one place. We also have a responsibility to deliver on that which we've allowed to persist for far too long.
I'm also going to ask you a question for the millionth time. Have you met with NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch? When do you plan to meet with her? What more do you know about her staying on the job?
I haven't met with the commissioner since the election victory a week and a half ago, but I am going to be having a meeting with her shortly, and I look forward to that. And I look forward to it because my decision, which I made clear during the election, to retain her is one out of a shared vision for the importance of delivering public safety, and I look forward to doing that while also creating a Department of Community Safety.
Now, I know you apologized for past comments that you made to the NYPD, but how do you plan, once you get into office, to help alleviate some fears, as there was an uptick in the number of officers who put in their papers this last month? What are you going to do when you get in office to make sure that officers know that, you know, you have their backs in this next year? 4 years?
The first thing to be clear about is a recognition of what those officers put on the line every single day when they put their uniforms on, and the importance that we ask them to do that which is possible. And what I mean by that is over these last few years, we have asked police officers to start to perform almost every single responsibility we can think of to take on the breaking of a social safety net. You know, in 2020, the police response time was less than 11 minutes. This year, it's closer to 16 minutes. And part of that is because we're now asking them to respond to 200,000 mental health calls. So one of my messages to those officers is that it is time for police officers to only be asked to do police work. And it's time to create a Department of Community Safety where we have mental health professionals being asked to do the work of the mental health crisis and the homelessness crisis. Because the crisis that we're seeing within the NYPD, a retention crisis, when I started running, when we started speaking at the beginning of this campaign, maybe about 200 officers were leaving every month. It grew to about 350 in the final months of the campaign. And we're seeing a lot of that has to do with quality of life. A lot of that has to do with forced overtime. We need to start to make this a sustainable job. That's the work I'll do.
Now, you and Mayor Eric Adams, your guys' team, have met to discuss the transition. You two haven't met yet. When do you plan to meet?
He's currently abroad. When he returns, we'll be having that meeting.
Yeah, so he is in Israel. He's leaving for Israel today. He seems to be sort of needling you a little bit in these final days and certain policy moves that he's been making. But he also invited the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to come to New York City on your first day when you're being sworn in. You know, you've said in the past that you want to arrest Netanyahu for alleged war crimes. Do you plan to arrest Netanyahu on your first day?
So my plan on my first day is to become sworn in as the next mayor of New York City and start to deliver on an affordability agenda. I've said time and again, this is a city of international law, a city that believes in those values, and one that should honor the warrants that have been issued by the International Criminal Court, be it for Vladimir Putin or Benjamin Netanyahu. And I've also said that unlike Donald Trump, I'm not going to create my own set of laws. And what that means is exhausting every single legal option. Now, the mayor is free to travel where he would like to spend the final weeks and months of his administration, and he's free to speak to whomever he would like to. My focus is on actually delivering for New Yorkers. That's what I'm going to be doing.
And speaking of your inauguration, do you know where you're going to do it yet?
I do not. I do not. But as soon as I do, I'll be sure to let you know.
And you've also not said yet if you plan to live in Gracie Mansion. Have you decided?
I haven't decided that as yet either. But these are decisions that I'll be making over the next, I think it's 48 days of a transition.
And last question for you. More than 50,000 people have applied to be a part of your administration. What's your advice for people who maybe want their resume to rise to the top?
Well, I think the first thing is I'm so excited to see this number because what we've been hearing time and time again with the close to 20,000 vacancies we have in city government is that there just isn't the interest in public service. There isn't the interest in delivering within city government any longer. And what we've shown actually is that when you have a directive where City Hall becomes a place of supporting New Yorkers as opposed to a place of scandal that New Yorkers read about in the papers every day, you can see now more than 50,000 people applying. And that just shows the excitement in this moment on delivering on an affordability agenda. And you know, my recommendation to those applying is that it doesn't matter who you know, it matters the work that you do. So I appreciate the resumes that are coming in, the interest that's coming in, because that is what we're looking to build an administration of. It's going to be excellence and it's going to be capability, and that's what we're starting to do already.
Well, thank you so much for making time to come on here. I know you have a very busy next 50 days, so thank you so much, Mayor-elect. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.